Hey everybody, it's me, Christian. Welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. You can probably tell from the audio. Usually, when the audio is like this, it means I have a guest. I don't have a guest on the podcast today, but you can probably tell from the sound of my voice, I'm a little sick. I mentioned last week, if you listened to the podcast, that I had a bit of a sore throat and I felt like something was coming. And guess what? You say something enough, it comes true. So that's what happened. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. I have been pretty much this whole week. So um, if you're wondering why I'm doing a podcast, powering through because positive thoughts will get you more healthier, right? I don't know if that's true, but so yeah, I'm feeling a little sick. So that's why the audio is a little off. I don't want to use the other mic because if I use it next week when I'm feeling better, I don't want the germs to come at me and then get sick all over again. So forgive me for the audio this week. It's going to be a little weird. But again, I'm feeling a little sick, but I'm powering through because I want to. I told myself I want to do a podcast. So make me feel a little bit better in that case. So let's get to this week's podcast. Of course, one of the big things that came out this week, and something that I think a lot of people are still talking about is the passing of Gene Wilder, and he passed away at the age of 83 due to complications of his Alzheimer's disease, which I don't think a lot of people knew he had Alzheimer's, or maybe they did, they just forgot about it. I didn't know, and that would probably explain why he hasn't been in the spotlight for a while because of his Alzheimer's. But Wilder had a tremendous career, and you can even put the word legendary in front of it. And he's had so many roles that I think everyone kind of remembers. Some of the big roles that just keep coming out, people remembering him in are The Producers, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and of course the thing that I first saw him in, which was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And that was the first thing I saw him in. That was the first thing I remember seeing him in anyway. And to this day, Willy Wonka still has a very special place in my heart. And I'm sure that he will hold a very special place in a lot of people's hearts now that we know about Wilder. And this is a little hard to talk about. And I think a lot of people that have been, reporting on it and saying stuff on it, it's really hard for them to talk about. It's really hard for me to talk about. Again, when I saw Willy Wonka for the first time, I was young, and as I got older, I started realizing who Gene Wilder really was, and all the other roles he's been a part of. But Willy Wonka is always the one that stuck out to me because that was the first thing I saw him. And so I just wanted to mention his death, and I wanted to say, just thank you for all the amazing stuff that he's put in. If you've never seen Gene Wilder in anything other than Willy Wonka, I think you're doing yourself a very big disservice. And I think you should go and see some of his other stuff. The Producers, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles. That's just been the one that those have been the films that I've been constantly seeing a lot of people talk about. Of course, he's done a bunch of other amazing stuff. If you want to go check that out as well. So rest in peace, Gene Wilder. You have left us with an amazing body of work that will never be repeated ever again. So one news item that came out last week after the podcast went up was that Vincent D'Onofrio and Dean Norris have joined the Death Wish remake. The remake has been pretty quiet for a while. The last big news item that came out for the remake was that Eli Roth had come into the director's chair. And I think that was a couple months ago. I'm pretty sure we talked about it here on the podcast. I just don't remember. Either way, the film already has Bruce Willis set to lead the film. He will be playing the lead in Paul Kersey, an ordinary family man who turns into a vigilante after a brutal attack on his family. The original film, of course, starred Charles Bronson and has earned the cult classic fame, and it's known for its violence. And the sequels have, of course, arguably just taken that violence over the top. But the Death Wish movies have a very special place in a lot of people's hearts as well. D'Onofrio will play Willis's brother in the film, while Norris will play a character named Detective Rains. Neither of the characters were in the original film, so it could mean that maybe there'll be a combination of other characters from the original, or could just be brand new characters for this new alliteration of the story. The Death Wish movie doesn't have a release date just yet, but it will start shooting next month, or this month, I should say. So we'll probably be hearing a lot more about the remake sooner rather than later. Personally, I don't think I have too much of a connection with Death Wish. I remember watching the first one years ago. I think it was years ago. I don't remember when, but it was years ago that I watched it. And the story's been told before. Ordinary man, goes on a killing spree, after his family passed away. I mean, you can make the Punisher connections, sure. Arguably, a connection I like to make is the 2007 movie, the James Wan movie, called Death Sentence. It felt a lot like a Death Wish movie with Kevin Bacon. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you do. I think that was James Wan's first non-horror esque movie that he did. Before, of course, he did Fast and the Furious. But it's pretty good. I mean, it's not overly awesome. It came at a time when a lot of people a lot of movies were copying other stuff. It was in that remake craze range. But it's still. I mean, I liked it. It's still a really decent movie. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. And Bruce Willis as the lead. I think a lot of people at this point know that he likes to phone it in sometimes, and I don't think you want to phone it in for a Death Wish movie, especially a remake at that. But more power to them if they can make it work. As long as it's better than Eli Roth's last movie, which was Green Inferno, I think we'll be okay. Because that movie was terrible. It's garbage. I like how my voice just makes me sound like I'm a lot older than I really am because I'm sick. Anyway, let's move on to the next bit of news. This week's news items, I should say. The first one, we don't really have to talk about it, or I'm not going to talk about it, I'm just going to mention it. Mel Gibson confirms he is working on a Passion of the Christ sequel called The Resurrection. Did a little interview with someone, and he talked about that he is working on it, and that he hopes that they can do the sequel justice. Of course, The Passion of the Christ was on the top of the charts for the highest grossing R-rated movie for a long time. And, a lot of people like to give crap to Mel Gibson because of what he, did all those years ago. And yes, he deserved all the crap that he got. But at the same time, I think it was the last time I had a guest on the show, which was Mike. I think it was last month. Yeah, it was last month. We were talking about Comic-Con. He mentioned that a lot of people have done worse things than Mel Gibson. And it's true. But, even the trailers for Hacksaw Ridge don't even name him as a director. It just says the director of Braveheart. So I don't know. I think it's time to forgive. Well, not forgive, but just forgive. Let's not forget, but let's give Mel Gibson a chance to come back. He's a hell of a director. I don't think anyone can take that away from him. I think he's a hell of a director. I think he still has some chops as an actor. We haven't really seen him in stuff too much. Expendables not included, but I don't know. We'll see. The next bit of news item is Transformers: The Last Knight casts its King Arthur. Yes, you heard and read that right. No, I'm not going crazy because I'm getting sick. That is a real thing. It's been a while since we've talked about The Last Knight. And then apparently the movie will tie into medieval times. More specifically, the reign of King Arthur, because screw it at this point, right? Paramount hasn't confirmed the news, but set photos and this recent casting have pretty much confirmed the story idea. Key player being, of course, King Arthur. The film has casted Liam Garrigan, I think that's how you say his name, to play Arthur himself. Mashable broke the news of Garrigan's casting, and Garrigan has actually played King Arthur before. He's actually played him on the ABC show Once Upon a Time. Of course, that was ABC's Once Upon a Time, and this is Michael Bay's King Arthur, so I'm pretty sure they're going to be very different. The Last Knight story supposedly will take Optimus Prime back to the home of the Transformers, only to find it near destruction, and the only way to save it is to find a weapon that was created and used during the times of King Arthur. With the little story blurb, the title, The Last Knight, seems to make a lot of sense now. Some even have suggested that Optimus may be part of King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. And that sounds a bit crazy, but let's face it, it's the Transformers series. They're crazy, and they're going back to medieval times. I mean, there's no going back from that. So why not? And Merlin, by the way, will also appear in the film. I think they casted someone. I didn't put that down, but yeah, King Arthur and Merlin in a Transformers movie. That's yeah, that sounds right up Michael Bay's alley. The Maze Runner: The Death Cure will restart filming next year. Back in March, filming for the third and last installment of the Maze Runner series was put on indefinite hold when the lead actor Dylan O'Brien got severely injured during a stunt. 20th Century Fox also moved the release date from the February 2017 release to a January 2018 release, aiming to start filming around May of next year. However, a new report says the film will get filming a lot sooner than people expected, because the film will start filming again in February of next year, but there's no word yet on if the release date will be changed or not. Now, filming will bring back everyone from the past films, including director Wes Ball. Of course, more importantly, O'Brien is healthier and feeling better, and I'm sure that will make fans happy. This is pretty cool. I mean, Dylan O'Brien, when he got injured, the report said, oh, he'll be out like a few weeks or something. And then a report came out later, I don't know if it was the same week or a little bit afterwards, that his injuries were a lot more severe than people thought originally. And they're like, yeah, we're going to indefinitely, stop filming. And but now O'Brien's feeling better, and I think that's he's healthy enough to go back into filming, and I think that's going to be good. So we'll see. I mean, the last film, The Scorched Trials, it was okay. It wasn't as good as the first one. There was a really weird part in the middle of the film that really kind of took the wind out of the movie for me. But we'll see what they do with the Death Cure, and let's see if fans are still wanting to see it. I'm pretty sure fans are still wanting to see it. I think when fans really latch onto a series, they tend not to let go too much, except for Divergent films, but that's another story. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this. The Uncharted video game film adaptation has been removed from its 2017 release date yet again. The film had recently a June 30th, 2017 release that has since been removed from the schedule. The last report from the film that was released, that we talked about here on the podcast, was that Joe Carnahan would be writing the script, which is pretty cool. So it looks like he has more time. Carnahan did briefly mention something on Twitter saying that the opening scene, at least in script form, was really awesome, but then again, he wrote it, so take that for what you will. However, the Uncharted movie now has no release date, no lead star, it never did anyway, but still, and no director. The last director who was attached was Seth Gordon, who directed Horrible Bosses, but he dropped out back in June. I didn't even realize that. I thought he was still attached, but I guess he dropped out back in June. So the Uncharted film is back to square one, essentially, and I don't know how. I don't know if the Uncharted movie is one of those video games that will join Halo and Gears of War and never get made. Who knows? We'll see what happens with the Uncharted. It's just it's very unlucky at the moment. Terminator 2 Judgment Day will get a 3D release sometime next year. Did you ever want to see Terminator 2 Judgment Day in 3D? Me neither. But that's what we're getting. The positive thing, if that's what you want to call it, here is that James Cameron will be doing the 3D conversion, or at least overlooking the 3D conversion. The idea was thought of like a few years ago, and Cameron wanted to release the 3D version last year, because last year was the film's 25th anniversary, but it never happened for some reason. I think they probably just didn't finish it, or Cameron was probably too busy, working on the Avatar sequels or something. I don't know. But it never happened. It never came, and fans were, I don't know if they were disappointed, but the idea of seeing a 3D Terminator 2 Judgment Day doesn't get me really too excited. I mean, seeing Terminator 2 on the big screen again would be awesome. I didn't watch it the first time it came out. Obviously, I wasn't old enough yet. But it was like 4 or 5 years ago, AMC was like doing the summer of past summer movies, and they were showing Terminator 2, and I got to see Terminator 2 for the first time on the big screen, and it was just as fun and glorious as watching it on VHS when I was a kid. So maybe watching it on the big screen again will be cool. I don't know. 3D, I'm not sold on it yet, but I mean, again, James Cameron is involved with the 3D conversion, so hopefully, you know, he'll make it worthwhile. I mean, the 3D in Avatar was okay, so hopefully this will be okay as well. Jackie Chan and others will receive an honorary Oscar later this year. It's hard to believe that Jackie Chan has been working in the film industry for well over 50 years now, and he got to start doing uncredited work. A lot of it's been kind of recognized and bought up before, but he finally, he did his big break. Was the movie Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. And that was kind of his first real big role, and he kind of just went off from there. Of course, we all know some of the big ones he's done, like Drunken Master, the Police Story films, Who Am I, Shanghai Noon and Nights. Of course, this first kind of real American film was Rumble in the Bronx. He did the Karate Kid remake. He voices Monkey in the Kung Fu Panda films, and of course we all know him from the Rush Hour movies. And surprisingly, Chan has 131 film credits to his name, and there's still a lot more films he's working on that are going to come out. So after all these years, Jackie Chan will finally be getting an honorary Oscar from the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. Now, Chan isn't going to be the only recipient. He'll be joined by film editor Anvi Coates. She's edited films like Lawrence of Arabia, Congo, Out of Sight, Aaron Brockovich, and most recently did the edit for 50 Shades of Grey. Another recipient of the honorary Oscar will be casting director Lynn Stallmaster. She's been the casting director of films like The Graduate, Tootsie, The Right Stuff, and of course the big one, the Christopher Reeve Superman film. And the last recipient for the honorary Oscar will be documentary filmmaker Frederick Wiseman. Kind of hard to tell if anyone's ever... I mean, people have seen his documentaries. He's been nominated for Oscars, and I think he's won a few Oscars too. But they're all going to be recipients of the honorary Oscars at the Governor's Ball on November 12th later this year. And pretty much like always, we'll see little brief snippets of it during the Oscars next year in February. Now, of course, Chan is the bigger one, and that's kind of the one that everyone's kind of focusing on. But it's really cool. It's long deserved, and he's finally getting some recognition from the Academy. A lot of people have been rooting and campaigning for the Academy to notice other people, not just the big, dramatic actors. There's been a big push for the Academy to recognize stunt people, which I'm fully behind, because, we all know the kind of hard work they go through. But to see that Jackie Chan is getting recognition from the Academy is really, really cool. And I think long overdue, so that's congratulations to him. Pitch Perfect 3 gets a new director in Trish C. I think that's how you say your last name. Pitch Perfect hit a bit of a bump in the road when producer and director of the sequel, Elizabeth Banks, left the director's chair earlier this year, but it looks like the film has found a new director in Trish C. Variety reported the news, and Banks seemed to confirm the news on her Twitter account, since she is still a producer on the film, of the casting of this new director. Now, Pitch Perfect 3 will be C's second feature-length film, directing-wise anyway. The first one she directed was Step Up All In. She actually started as a professional dancer and choreographer, which of course probably helped in the Step Up movies. And she's worked on music videos for the band OK Go, more specifically the one that kind of made them, big, and the one that put them on the map. Here It Goes Again, which is the one when they're on the treadmills. She's also directed the videos for them for the songs A Million Ways and Upside Down, Inside Out. So she has extensive background on music, so that should help her out with Pitch Perfect 3. We assume all the cast will be coming back. We do know for sure that Anna Kendrick, Rebel Wilson, and Brittany Snow will return. There's no story details just yet, but considering the film is coming out in December of next year, it probably isn't out of the realm of possibility that we can see a somewhat Christmas-themed Pitch Perfect. I could be wrong, but I think with the release date in tow, I think that probably makes a lot of sense. A new director joins the Captain Marvel shortlist. The shortlist for Marvel's Captain Marvel came out last week. That included Nikki Carl from the movie Well Rider. She directed the movie anyway. Lauren Scarfia, who directed Seeking a Friend at the End of the World, and the famed TV director Leslie Linka Glatter, who has done many episodes for Mad Men and Homeland, just to name those two big series. But a new director has been added to the list in Rebecca Thompson. Now, Rebecca Thompson isn't a name that probably a lot of you would recognize. Well, that's because she's only done she only has one real film credit, one feature-length film credit anyway, to her name, which is the 2010 drama Electric Chicken. That's right, Electric Chicken. She also was attached to two big studio films in Universal's live-action film The Little Mermaid with Chloe Grace Moretz, and the adaptation for John Green's Looking for Alaska, both of which are still in the very, very early stages of pre-production. And I think even one of those films doesn't even have an official green light yet. I could be wrong about that, but I think that is the case. And I think it's Looking for Alaska. Whatever the case, Captain Marvel would be a huge opportunity for Thomas, much like the other three directors. Of course, Brie Larson is set to play the lead in Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, a pilot that gets her superhuman powers when exposed to exposed to alien DNA. She is human. Although co-writer Nicole Perlman, who of course wrote Guardians of the Galaxies, has stated Guardians of the Galaxy. I keep saying Galaxies, I don't know why. Has stated that the origin will change a bit from the comics. The other writer for the film is Meg LaFarve. I didn't tell you her name. I always mispronounce it. I think I always say it differently every time too. She was one of the writers for Inside Out, and the movie will be released on March 8th, 2019. Again, I can't really say too much about Rebecca Thomas because I haven't seen Electric Chicken. The name, I remember thinking I heard the name because of Little Mermaid and Looking for Alaska, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. Of course, they have a long time to pick out a director, but Brie Larson is rumored, not expected, is rumored to potentially appear in one of the Avengers films, presumably the first one, because the Captain Marvel film will come out after the first Avengers film. Rock That Body adds a supporting cast. I feel weird saying the name of that movie. It's been a while since we talked about the R-rated female-centric comedy about a bachelorette party gone wrong. The film has Scarlett Johansson as the lead, with Jillian Bell, Kate McKinnon, Zoe Kravitz, and Alana Glazer rounding up the leads. But the film has been kind of silently upping its cast, supporting cast anyway, with big names. Ty Burrell and Demi Moore have joined the film already, and they've already added another name, Colton Haynes. No word yet on the roles they will play, but it is an impressive lineup so far. I mean, that's a pretty big lineup for a film like this. No word yet on what the film will exactly be about, but if the early synopsis is to be believed, the ladies could have maybe accidentally killed a stripper and are attempting to cover it up. So maybe Colton Haynes plays a stripper. Who knows? We'll obviously find out a little more about the film. I think the film is currently filming, or almost about to film, because they have a release date of next year for June 23rd, and the film will be directed by Lucia Anello. She writes and directs for the Comedy Central show Broad City, which, of course, stars Alana Glazer. Karen Gillan joins Jumanji. Now, it's been quiet-ish on the Jumanji front. We mentioned last week on the podcast that Dwayne Johnson said that the movie will not be a reboot, but it will be a continuation of the story, whatever that means. Now the news for the film is that Karen Gillan has joined the film. Now, Karen Gillan, of course, from Doctor Who, she played Amy Pond. That's kind of where she got real big recognition. That's where she broke into the scene. So she of course has been in other films. She's been in the horror film Oculus. She was in the Marvel film Guardians of the Galaxy as Nebula, She she's going to be in the Valley of Violence that comes out next month. So she's been doing stuff here and there all around. So she's becoming a big name. So she has joined the cast that already has, of course, Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Nick Jonas. Also revealed recently that he has joined the cast on social media. So now they have a ladies' touch for the film. She will be playing a character named Martha, but other than that, we don't know too much about her character or even the film. But we can probably assume that maybe the game comes to life and that animals run wild, essentially. So maybe, I don't know. However, we do know one more thing about Jumanji, and that is that The Rock, through some concept art, we finally know who his name is, or the character's name is, and it's giving off some very serious Indiana Jones vibes. Let's put it that way. The character will be called Dr. Bravestone, or more specifically, as the concept art says, the smoldering Dr. Gravestone, or Bravestone. Yeah, so I guess we should look forward to that. The concept art's pretty interesting. I'll see if I can put a link down below so you guys can go check it out yourselves. The film will start filming in Honolulu sometime next month with director Jack Kasdan, and it currently has a release date of next year on July 28th. Sebastian Stan joins Steven Soderbergh's Logan Lucky. Sebastian Stan has become kind of a household name pretty much when he joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, and since then he's been doing pretty good for himself, starring in other films, but this next project sounds really promising, which was of course the heist film Steven Soderbergh's Logan's Lucky. Stan now joins the cast of Daniel Craig, Channing Tatum, Hilary Swank, Adam Driver, Katherine Heigl, Seth MacFarlane, and Riley Keough. Details on the specifics of the story have not been revealed, but the film will follow a heist that happens during a NASCAR event featuring the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Stan will play a 3-time Sprint Cup champion coming back after spending some time off from the sport. This will be Soderbergh's first film back since his self-imposed quote-unquote retirement. Of course, he didn't really retire so much. He went on to direct the first season of the Starz miniseries The Nick. He also executive produced the TV show based on his own film The Girlfriend Experience, which also starred Riley Keough, and did the TV movie Behind the Candelabra with Michael Douglas and Matt Damon. So he didn't really retire. He just decided to not film movies for a while. But now he's back, so I look forward to it. And the cast sounds great. I mean, you got Craig, you got Tatum, you got Swank, you got Driver, you got McFarlane, you got Riley Keough, and now you have Sebastian Stan in the film. I think this will probably be a really good film. We don't know when the film will be released, but they are expecting a release sometime next year. Obviously, when the release date is announced, I will let you guys know here on the podcast or on the Facebook page. Jon Favreau is returning as Happy Hogan in Spider-Man Homecoming. Jon Favreau is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as an actor, not as a director. Favreau will return as his Iron Man character, Happy Hogan, in Spider-Man Homecoming. No word yet on how big his role will be, but the character has been absent and hasn't really even been mentioned since the events in Iron Man 3. Favreau was a very important part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Studios' success, pretty much. He directed the first Iron Man, of course he directed Part 2, and arguably created the universe that we all watch and enjoy. He has an executive producer credit on all the Avengers films, so he's still a part of the Marvel's family in some respect. But it's kind of cool to see him come back as Happy Hogan. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a competition between him and Tom Holland. We assume that maybe Tom Holland's Peter Parker / Spider-Man could be somewhat protege to Tony Stark, which of course Robert Downey Jr. will appear in the film as well. So we'll see what happens there. I'm really glad that he's coming back. Happy Hogan was he has his moments in the film, so it's pretty cool to see him Favreau come back in just a Marvel film. I mean, it's essentially a a Sony film, sorry, but Marvel is helping out with it. So, Spider-Man: Homecoming, of course, will star Tom Holland as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man, Marisa Tomei as Aunt May, Zendaya as potentially Mary Jane Watson. I don't think it's actually been officially confirmed that she is playing Mary Jane Watson. I think that story just kind of became this wave that was unstoppable. So I don't think that it's actually been confirmed that she is playing Mary Jane Watson. So let's slow down on that. Michael Keaton will potentially play the villain in Vulture. Tony Tony Revolori, I can tell you say his name, I don't know, is playing Flash Thompson. Michael Shernis from Orange is the New Black, he will be playing the Tinkerer. Bokeem Woodbine will be playing the villain Shocker. That was kind of silently announced apparently apparently like a month ago or 2 months ago or something like that. So Shocker's in the movie, being played by again Bokeem Woodbine. Angori Rice from The Nice Guys, she's potentially playing Betty Brant. I don't know if that's been confirmed, but I've seen a few stories that have been attaching the Betty Brant character to her, so we don't know just yet. Hannibal Buress is also in the film. He apparently plays a gym teacher, and other people in the film that we don't know who they are exactly yet. I'm sure we will in time, since Spider-Man: Homecoming is currently filming. Logan Marshall Green, Martin Starr, and Donald Glover will also appear. The film will be directed by John Watts, who directed the film Cop Car I think it was earlier this year, right, that it came out. I actually don't remember. It might have been earlier this year that the film came out. But he directed that, and it opens next year on July 7th. Spider-Man: Homecoming, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about it in the coming months and within the next year. So, and the last news item for this week's podcast is that Ben Affleck reveals that Deathstroke will join the DC Extended Universe. Ben Affleck revealed some big news, some huge news on his Twitter account earlier this week, revealing that a major character will be entering the DC Extended Universe, and that, of course, is none other than Deathstroke. For those unfamiliar with the character, his real name is Slade Wilson, and has been involved in many stories in the comics, and has faced many characters like the Suicide Squad, Green Arrow, the Justice League, and yes, even Batman himself. What makes the character even more lethal is that he's all human. There's no superpowers. He's just a really smart and good fighter that can hang with the best of them, which is why his character was originally called Deathstroke the Terminator. Deathstroke is a great addition to the universe, and I think is a worthy main villain in pretty much any film that he can be involved in. Now, early rumors suggested that Deathstroke could possibly appear in Suicide Squad, but that turned out to obviously not be true, and the video that Affleck shared looks like test footage. And since Justice League is currently filming at the moment over in London, there were some conflicting reports that maybe he'll appear in Justice League. There's some reports saying that maybe he'll be the main villain in the solo Batman film, and that he's just a tease in Justice League that will lead to a bigger role in the Batman film. I'm hopeful that's the case. I'm hopefully they're not going to jam pack not Suicide Squad, Justice League with a lot of villains. I hope that maybe it is just a tease, and that we see Deathstroke in the Batman film, because he looks really cool. He looks a lot like his comic book counterpart. Obviously, there's tweaks in there. There's some differences, but overall, the design is really badass. You can automatically tell that it's Deathstroke. So I really like that. But of course, who will play him? Now, there's some reports out there that Joe Manganiello is rumored once again to play the character. Now, Manganiello was rumored to be playing the character before, when he was the character Deathstroke was rumored to be in Suicide Squad. And it looks like the rumors have started up again. The Manganiello is currently in London, where Justice League is filming, and apparently he followed Zack Snyder recently, which of course doesn't really mean anything, but you never know with these kind of things. So we'll find out. Justice League will come out next year in November, and the standalone Batman film doesn't have a release date yet, but of course Ben Affleck is working on the script with Jeff Johns. He will direct and he will star. Now we wait. to see what happens. I think that again, Deathstroke is one of the better villain characters around, and I think again he's a worthy villain for any film. Whether it's just we know that Steppenwolf will be the villain in Justice League, and I hope they don't reduce Deathstroke to like a minor villain. I really hope it's just like a tease, and then he's like the solo villain for the Batman film. I think that will work beautifully, and yeah, now we just wait. That is all the news items that we have for this week. Of course, at the time of this recording. So obviously news jams will drop, and you guys can go to the Facebook page at facebook.com/moviepit to find out more news items that come out after the podcast goes up, and of course to stay up to date on what we'll be talking about on the podcast that week. Some trailers dropped this week. I just want to briefly mention first trailer for the Naomi Watts thriller film called Shut In. It looks really creepy. The film also stars Jacob Tremblay from Room and Charlie Helton. I think that's how you say it, or Hedon. I forgot how you say his last name. I heard it recently too, and I just don't remember. He was on Stranger Things, which, by the way, Stranger Things on Netflix. If you haven't watched it yet, highly recommend you do, because season 2 is on the way, and I'm really excited for it. So he's in there as well. The film is really creepy. It looks really creepy. It's kind of interesting and cool to see Naomi Watts back in a kind of a thriller, horror-esque kind of film after The Ring, especially after the Rings trailer came out last week. So yeah, there's that. Also, the first trailer for Max Steel came out this week. I don't know what to think about this movie. I made a joke on my Facebook saying that the little kid in me probably would have loved this film, but the adult in me wants to see what the next trailer does, and maybe it will sell me on it. It looks interesting. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but again, it's not. I don't think it's really targeted toward me. I wasn't really too much of a Max Steel fan as a kid, but I did enjoy it. I knew who the character was and what he is and who he is, not what he is. So the trailer looks okay. I mean, it's not a terrible trailer. It looks like a fun little dumb popcorn film. So we'll see what the trailer will be. Again, all the trailers that came out this week will be down below. Just want to mention those two because those are the two that stuck out to me. So yeah. So let's get to this week's releases. Of course, we always start out with the limited releases. Limited release this week. One of the limited releases this week is The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, directed by Alexandre Aja, who of course directed films like High Tension, the Hills Have Eyes remake, Piranha 3D, and Horns. It's based off the novel by Liz Jensen and written by Max Manghella. He's an actor and now apparently a writer. He was in films like The Social Network and Horns, and he's been on the Mindy Project. So the film, The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, follows a psychologist played by Jamie Dornan who begins working with a young boy who has suffered a near fatal fall, and he finds himself drawn into mystery that tests the boundaries of fantasy and reality. The film also stars Sarah Gondon, Aaron Paul, Terry Chen, and Molly Parker. Been hearing some mixed things about it so far, but we'll see what that film has. Again, it's a limited release, so who knows. And the next limited release is Yoga Hosers, of course directed, written, and starring in a small role by Kevin Smith. Two teenage yoga enthusiasts, one of them played by Harley Quinn Smith, yes, his daughter, and Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp starter, team up with the legendary Manhunter to battle with an ancient evil presence that is threatening their major party plans. The film also stars Austin Butler, Natasha Lyonne, Haley Joel Osment, Justin Long, Tyler Posey, Genesis Rodriguez, Adam Brody, Tony Hall, Jason Mewes, and Johnny Depp. The film has gotten some mixed reviews. Let's call it that. Let's call it mixed reviews. But I don't know. I mean, it's a Kevin Smith movie. You should know what you're walking into. Just put it at that. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know. I might watch it if I have the chance. So there's that. So those are the limited releases this week. The wide releases this week. The first one is The Light Between Oceans, based off a novel by M.L. Stedman, a lighthouse keeper and his wife, played by Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander, a real couple by the way, living off the coast of Western Australia, raise a baby they rescue from an adrift rowboat. The film also stars Rachel Weisz, and it looks good. I mean, this is a great cast: Michael Fassbender, Alicia Vikander, Rachel Weisz. I mean, you can't really, do better than that acting wise. The film looks pretty cool. It looks like there's going to be some human conflict. Apparently, Rachel Weisz is either the mother or the aunt of the baby that they've been raising. The trailers have kind of been. I've seen two different versions of the trailer, so I don't know, but we'll see what happens with that. It hasn't been getting a ton of. I mean, recently it's been getting a lot of marketing, but for a while I didn't even know this movie was coming out. And then, like in the last, like I think 2 weeks, I've been seeing trailers just like every now and then when I watch something on TV. So hopefully it finds an audience, because the cast is great, it looks great, and I've been hearing some good things about it. So the next film is Morgan, directed by Luke Scott, the son of course, Ridley Scott, who produces the film. A corporate risk manager consultant, played by Kate Mara, must decide whether or not to terminate an artificially created humanoid being, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. The film also stars Rose Leslie, Toby Jones, Boyd Holbrook, Michelle Yeoh, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Brian Cox, and Paul Giamatti. I saw the teaser when the teaser was first released for this. I saw it, and it was really effective. I mean, I thought the teaser was great. I was kind of hoping that they wouldn't release another trailer and just release the teaser out. But they released the trailer. It looked pretty good. I'm hoping that it turns out great. I mean, we've seen films like this already. With artificially created humanoids. We've seen Ex Machina. Of course, she wasn't a humanoid; she was still a robot. But we'll see how this turns out. I'm really interested in seeing Morgan, also because that film kind of came out of nowhere. For a while, I didn't even know it was coming out, and then I didn't even know about this film at all, to be honest. And then I saw the teaser, and I thought I thought it was great. It just jumped right to the top of my my must-watch list. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a light week. Of course, it's the end of the summer movie season. It's the Labor Day weekend, so sometimes during the Labor Day, a lot of the times actually during the Labor Day weekend, a lot of companies kind of hold off on some of the releases. So hopefully, Morgan and Light Between Oceans find a crowd for it. Again, it's a light weekend. People probably want to stay in, but for those that want to go to the theater and want to see something new because you've already seen everything else, you got those two choices. Box office predictions. I thought about not doing them this week because, again, it's Labor Day weekend, and the Labor Day weekend is always kind of interesting. It's always a mixed bag. You never know what's going to happen. So, but I guess I'll do them. I mean, I'm not too confident in it this week, so if I'm wrong this week, I'm completely okay with that. So let's start off with last week's actual box office. Last week's actual box office was actually no. I start off with my picks from last week. So my picks last week were Don't Breathe at number 1, Suicide Squad at number 2, Sausage Party at number 3, War Dogs at number 4, Kubo and the Two Strings at number 5. I even mentioned that maybe Mechanic Resurrection would sneak in there at the number 5 position. I was wrong. But I was good wrong, mainly because I just saw one of these movies recently, and I'm very happy that I saw it and it got jumped up. And it jumped up in the box office, I should say. So last week's actual box office: Don't Breathe number 1, Suicide Squad number 2, Kubo and the Two Strings at number 3, Sausage Party at number 4, and Mechanic Resurrection at number 5. I recently saw Kubo and the Two. I've been catching up on movies, so I recently saw Pete's Dragon, which was great. I really loved it. I saw Mechanic Resurrection, it was okay, and I just saw Kubo and the Two Strings as well, and that movie was beautiful. It was beautifully done, and the cover of While My Guitar Gently Weeps by Regina Spektor is fantastic. So I really loved Kubo and the Two Strings. So if you haven't watched Kubo and the Two Strings, I highly recommend that you do. So yeah, there's that. So that was the box office last week. My picks this week, again, it's Labor Day weekend. It's always really, you don't really know what's gonna happen. And again, a lot of people probably gotta either stay in or they're traveling. So this week's box office, I didn't want to do picks this week because it was really weird, but why not? What the hell? So I'll say Don't Breathe at number 1. I'll say Suicide Squad at number 2. Kubo and the Two Strings at number 3, Morgan at number 4, and I'll say Sausage Party drops to the number 5 position. Not confident in those picks. The Light Between Oceans, I don't think is going to get in the top 5 only because it's not playing in as many theaters as Morgan, so I think that will probably hurt it getting into the top 5. Hopefully people will go watch these two movies anyway, but I think that's the case. So I think, again, my picks, my half-ass picks, because, again, it's Labor Day weekend, no one really knows what's going to happen. Don't Breathe at number 1, Suicide Squad at number 2, Kubo and the Two Strings at number 3, Morgan at number 4, and Sausage Party at number 5. Again, it's Labor Day weekend, anything can happen. It's going to be a slow week, so if it's the same as last week, I will be very surprised, but that's usually not the case sometimes. So we'll see what happens. Alright guys, so thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week. You guys, thank you for sticking with the podcast, for listening all the way through. Again, I'm feeling a little sick. Hopefully I'll feel better next week. Again, the audio is a little off again. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to, infect the microphone I usually use, because if I get better and then all the germs come back at me, I don't want to get sick again. So, thank you guys so much. Of course, if anything else drops this week after the podcast goes up, you can always go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/moviepit, where I will keep you guys updated. Link will be down below. A link will also be down below for my WordPress account, which is movieswithchris.wordpress.com, where you guys can see my written reviews and a lot of other little written articles by me up on there. I will hopefully have a review for Morgan up this week. And I've been doing reviews for the horror films I saw at the Bruce Campbell Horror Film Festival 2 weeks ago. I think I mentioned this last week, but those reviews are up there. I'll also be, I don't know if I'll be doing a best movies of the summer article yet, but if I do, it will be up there as well. That's not confirmed yet. I just don't know. But stuff like that, I usually do little articles here and there as well up on there. So that's movieswithchris.wordpress.com. Again, link will be down below in the description area if you want to go check that out. Once again, the trailer is down below for Naomi Watts' Shut-In, the Max Steel trailer, and of course any other trailer that happens to come out this week that I missed will also be up there. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast and putting up with me. Again, I'm sorry that I got sick, but of course it happens. But yeah. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully you guys have a good, safe weekend. Again, it's a long weekend. It's Labor Day, so hopefully you guys stay safe out there. And then, yeah. And for all you kids going back to school, just bear with it. You unlucky bastards. Thank you guys so much for listening. Once again, stay safe out there. Have a good, safe weekend. Have a good Labor Day. And as always, go watch some movies.
Sleeping while my guitar gently weeps. I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping. Still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know why nobody told you how to unfold your love. I don't know how someone controlled you. They bought and sold you. I look at the world and I notice it's turning while my guitar gently weeps. With every mistake while my guitar gently weeps. I don't know how you were diverted, you were perverted too. I don't know how you are inverted, no one alerted you. Look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently